Like other classic aircraft of the World War II period, 1939 to 1945, the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress heavy bomber was subject to many experiments and conversion projects during its time in service. The YB-40 was developed as one of the former and intended to showcase the B-17 as a sort of flying gun bus to defend bomber formations to and from enemy targets. The project was not an outright success but did yield some 25 examples before the end and influenced several key changes of the B-17 line going forward. Prior to the availability of long-range fighter escorts like the North American P-51 Mustang and Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, thought was given to outfitting bomber airframes with additional machine guns, suitable ammunition stocks, and improved armor protection to help them serve as formation escorts. These aircraft were designed to accompany large American bomber formations over enemy airspace, provide point defense against intercepting enemy fighters, and return with the formation once the warload was dropped on enemy targets below. The B-17 seemed as good a starting point as any, for it was a proven player and available in the numbers required. Project V-139 marked the first example of such a creation, and this involved a production-quality B-17F model. Lockheed, Vega, handled the early conversion work, which involved addition of machine guns at various key locations and armor protection at the gunners' positions. The single guns at each open air beam position, the openings staggered for better gunner movement in the heat of battle, was doubled and a second dorsal turret was added after the first. A twin-gun Bendix-powered turret was installed at the chin position. The bombing equipment and bomb bay were deleted and, in the latter's place, a reserve for additional stocks of ammunition was added. The Sperry ball turret under the belly was retained and the cheek machine guns, at the sides of the forward fuselage, were still in play, though not initially installed as part of the conversion work. The aircraft could carry as many as 30 heavy machine guns if pressed, though between 14 and 18 proved typical due to the weight gains and practicality. With each gun installation there was an increase in ammunition required and a standard load of nearly 11,000 rounds was seen, most of this dedicated to the two dorsal turrets and nose guns. Douglas Aircraft was charged with making the modifications for the operational aircraft and, beyond the mentioned gun installations, other arrangements were trialed during this period, some involving automatic cannons of various calibers, though none made it to service. The product was already on order back in October 1942 when a prototype XB-40 made a first flight on November 10 of that year. The USAF required 13 converted bombers through an initial batch and a further 12 were added in January of 1943. First production quality aircraft emerged from Douglas that March in the series carried the developmental designation of YB-40 for the interim, pending the outcome of their in-service performance. The aircraft were delivered to England in May of 1943, one was lost en route, crash landing in Scotland, and these flew operational level missions for the USAF from that point until July of that year. Results were not wholly impressive as the fleet claimed only 5 enemy fighters from the 48 missions flown. The added weight of the armor plate and installed armament meant that these defenders could not keep pace with the main bomber force once the bombers had dropped their war loads. The test program was ended with the last mission flown on July 29, 1943, this an attack involving a pair of XB-40s on the Kiel submarine pen. Once their operational usefulness had concluded, the stock was sent back stateside and took part in crew training as the TB-40. All were scrapped before the end of the war in 1945. The XB-40 was not a total loss as it introduced several key features of future B-17 generations, namely the Bendix chin turret, which proved vital in defending against oncoming attacks from the front, and the staggered beam gun positions. Work on the XB-40 also resulted in upgrades to the tail gunner's position in the way of improved vision for better tracking and engagement of fast-moving targets. As completed, The YB-40 could boast a maximum speed of 292 miles per hour with a cruise speed of 195 miles per hour. Range was out to 2,260 miles with a service ceiling of 29,200 feet. Power was from 4x Wright R1820 65 turbo supercharged air-cooled radial piston engines developing 1,200 horsepower each.